I thought you wanted my mouse.
No.
It's got a wire. Actually, this is my home computer mouse. I keep forgetting to go out and buy one. Okay, we got about a minute to go.
Ansley graduates next week. She got a job in Houston. She's moving to Houston.
Okay, it's 6 o'clock. Let's go ahead and open the Board of Adjustments meeting, council meeting for Monday, May the 9th, 2022. So we call it to order. Could we have the invocation, please?
Father, please be with us tonight as over the proceedings of the City Council. Be with our city, state, and country. Be with all of us here and all of those unable to be here tonight. Protect us as we go through our days. In your Son's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. And Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Texas.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
All right. Let the record reflect that all council members are here with the exception of Councilmember Brown, who's not feeling too well tonight. Do we have any public comments who wish to speak on anything that's not on the agenda, or anything that's on the agenda but not attached to the agenda?
No, sir.
Okay. Nobody?
No comment.
Okay. Oh, we got one. Go
Did
ahead.
you sign?
I don't think he's.
I'm sorry.
He doesn't know the rules.
Ron, I live in Oakwood Shores and just want to give a little recognition. A couple months back, we had a poaching incident in our subdivision. Next day, we reached out to Texas Parks and Wildlife, and they did a phenomenal job investigating that. Right now, they have 2 suspects, a vehicle, confiscated firearm, and looking at possible felony charges on these people. With little evidence they had, they investigated it fully, and we're really happy about that. So.
Nice.
That's good. Did they find the headless ghost?
No, I think they're still looking for that. I think they're looking for that still. But just wanted to let council know that all Oakwood Shores is very appreciative of Texas Parks and Wildlife for helping out with that.
Well, thank you, Josh.
Sorry.
And thanks to the Texas
Josh.
Parks and Wildlife.
Were you on the list? I just missed
He was on the list, I'm sorry.
Oh, he was on the list.
Okay. All right, moving on to, let me get the right one here. No other public comments, so we will move on to the consent agenda. Minutes from meeting held on December 13th, 2021.
Make a motion to accept the minutes from the meeting held December 13th, 2021.
Okay, I have a motion made by Councilmember Johnson. Do I have a second?
A second.
I have a second by Councilmember Strawn. Councilmember Johnson, how do you vote, sir?
Aye.
Councilmember Strawn, how do you vote, ma'am?
Aye.
Councilmember Garble, how do you vote, sir?
Aye.
Councilmember Escalante, how do you vote, sir?
Aye.
Okay, let the record reflect that the motion carries by the unanimously by the members who are present. All right, discussion and action items. Public hearing and action regarding a request to allow a conditional use for a home occupation of firearm component manufacturer. Okay.
So Mr. Riggs submitted a conditional use variance request. You can come up to the podium and kind of explain. He's needing licensing through the ATF for this part, and the city needs to sign off on it. He had previously had approval from the city, but since his license has expired, the city has enacted a home occupations ordinance that now prohibits anything federally mandated and conditional use for home occupation. So when he came to renew with us, I had to let him know we have to bring it to council.
Okay. Do we have any questions?
I can add, because I know it's coming. I did send out to 10 neighbors in
Mhm.
the area. I received all certified returns back that they received the letters and received 3 responses in approval. No other phone calls or questions from any of the other neighbors.
Okay.
I just had a question. What kind of components are we referring to?
There you go, right there.
There we go. Perfect.
Sorry.
They're for AK type, to just the receiver, but that's all I make right there. No finished firearms, that's it, right there.
So just a lower receiver?
Yeah. And then that goes to other manufacturers to be finished, not any private sales, nobody comes to my house, nothing like that. I don't do any private transfers, none of that stuff. That's all I do right there. And I've been doing it since 2010.
Okay.
And yeah, this time when I renewed, they flagged it.
Right.
The first time that's happened.
It's just stamped or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Start with a piece of sheet metal, fold into shape, machining on it, some heat treating, and that's it.
You said no customers to the house though?
No. No. Nope. Nobody knows I'm doing it. Didn't know.
Now,
Until now.
It's me.
Thanks, Kurt.
This real stickler, sorry.
Any other questions or comments, or do we need a motion? I guess we need a motion on it. To approve it, yes.
Make a motion. I'm sorry, Mike, will you?
Well, I was just curious, it doesn't have the address or anything, so when we make the motion, is it specific to the house?
You can just approve Mr. Riggs' application for conditional use.
Okay, go ahead.
I make a motion to approve Mr. David Riggs' request for conditional use for home occupation of firearm component manufacturing.
Second.
Okay, have a motion made by Councilmember Yarborough, seconded by Councilmember Johnson. Councilmember Johnson, how do you vote, sir?
Aye.
Councilmember Strawn, how do you vote, ma'am?
Aye.
Councilmember Yarborough, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Escalante, how do you vote?
Aye.
Let the record reflect that the motion carries unanimously of the members present.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. And with that said, we will move to adjournment,
A few minutes.
and then we'll have a few minutes. Our next meeting will start at 6:15, or our regular meeting. So we will adjourn the Board of Assessment meeting.
I was gonna do 6:10, but had it done 6:10, we'd be here till 6:30.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Houston?
we did
People would have showed up.
You can never get it right. The good thing is it's never a packed council meeting when you do these. Like a room full of people
waiting,
staring at
just
each
like
other like.
around.
Is he going to
Other than
emergency conference
lots of viewers on the live stream.
in San Antonio?
How many got?
I don't know, let's see. I think just me. I think just one person.
So Vegas, there was some technical difficulties that I couldn't figure it out with my internet or what.
So,
What'd you think of
I got booted off, I don't
the
know, we had a lot of people here. So I don't know if maybe they jumped on the Wi-Fi, the guest Wi-Fi, maybe it kind of, I had kicked off
I
the
thought it was
internet.
really
thought
good.
Yeah, I
it was really
noticed
good.
So my
that
stream
started a new
ended,
one.
and so, I think
So
he
if I got
like
there and
Clint
started
over,
asking
Clint
questions.
texted me, and he was like, there's
Oh,
something
yeah,
wrong,
it
and I was
takes-
like, yeah, I started
I
a new
went to
stream,
the
and
on-site
I had to repost that
and
link.
then
Because I
came
got
back
him, he's like,
here
yeah,
and
Kirsten
jumped
said
on
there's an issue. It's
the
like, I
Zoom
texted her, she
meeting, and you were
notified
at the
me.
meeting.
Yeah,
I was laughing.
I wasn't gonna go to the on-site because of my knees.
Probably.
I did a little driving around.
I forget what it was. That was a pretty
Yeah, it
good
was
agenda that night though.
It was,
Sparked up a lot of interest
the water.
for
the
a while.
permit, so we had a lot of people here, and I think maybe it was just a lot of people on
FEMA's
the
out
internet or something, and it kicked me out.
Those
I think a lot of
Or
people
keep my
are interested in
camera
it, yeah.
hazardous material.
Did you get any more
Yeah.
views on that one than you usually get? Or is it
No,
like
we
that?
called ATAC.
I'd like the after views, but these
Now
are,
making it
these
for
cameras are on
iPhones.
the internet, so.
And you can actually set up,
Huh?
uh,
6 minutes-ish?
you got about
Hey,
6 minutes.
Hey,
But we are live.
it's live.
Maybe after we can talk about pool fences and everything else, have other talk.
But,
They're saying
we
that
put
you can
a,
bypass some safety requirements.
that's something that might be good to use.
State law ordinance.
Burns up the batteries on the phone.
Yeah, so our ordinance does say that as long as there is a cover over the pool, the water, prohibiting accidental,
Obviously, it has
like
to be
entry.
4 feet out.
I mean, because we just wrote a citation.
Yeah, so what's the state, do we have to go by state first?
So the state just says that the city can impose specific regulations, like it doesn't, the state law doesn't specifically say the rules, it just says that the city can pass ordinance too. So it says fencing required, every person in possession of land within the city, either in the capacity of owner, shall at all times maintain a fence, wall, or other enclosure not less than 4 feet high. And then it says, during the period of construction, all swimming pools shall be barricaded or safely covered with mesh. So it's just during construction.
He's talking about just having the mesh over there the
No,
whole time.
it's just allowed during construction. Because we cited someone for not having a fence, but they're in construction, so we told them that you could have a,
Like a,
because they had a pool because they were trying to get gas
Some
tested.
kind of builder's code or something like that. I'll talk to you about it later.
yeah, I was wondering if that was something we needed to bring back up, like if it needs to be, or if it's already written. It seems like it's pretty well written, but maybe,
Can you might,
When you're building a pool, you have trucks.
I'll send it
Yeah,
to
yeah.
you.
And it's like if you
Went
can't
to
have a
look
fence, they get you.
again
but
for
that's
it.
while it's
Gone.
under
It was
construction,
Yeah,
gone.
not
like new
once it's done.
construction of a home, if you're doing the
Yeah,
pool at the
anything
same
good.
time.
Right,
Yeah, go
If
quick.
there's something in it, then you have to at least cover
yeah,
it.
but once
Yeah, I
it's
gotta get
finished,
my,
Time on that.
get mine
well,
over
but
the
once it's
warranty.
finished, it needs to have some kind of a
Clutch replaced.
They don't
has
give an
to.
occupancy certificate unless there's a fence.
So that'd be good, so you can see, you can have.
You gotta go past
Yeah, so
the
you won't get a CO until there's that fence with the line.
footboard to
And
get
I
it to.
think, yeah, I don't know where
disengage.
it was the miscommunication, but I was
Yeah, our
thinking, like, the way I
If
read
it's
it,
just a regular old clutch, if it wasn't that two-stage clutch, I'd do it myself. That
That
ain't no thing, them two-stage clutches,
right,
they crazy. It's just like trying to put a fuel pump on it, or injector pump,
good.
which I might have to do that too,
It's
if mine's
so
leaking at the
dangerous,
top
you
if
know,
it
you
can't
just
pack.
never know, and
pack
Tell
it.
that
even,
having to take it up.
We've tried.
If something happens in the city, maybe we have a pool in our city and.
right, they didn't have a fence, that's kind of what we were thinking too,
Yeah, I got
having,
it.
you
The
know,
one
it's
near your
scary,
house now?
because
Yeah.
you never know what could happen. And you'd hate to ever feel responsible for it.
I gotta start, I'm probably gonna have to
I'd rather go up and pole.
get 3 mortgages on the house to get the money to replace the boards on my trailer.
So, but, you know, as far as I know, it's just during construction. As far as-
Actually, I bought
Kids
some
dare each other
lumber
to
this
do the
weekend.
stupidest things too.
It
Yeah.
wasn't, it's come down a little bit. It wasn't too
These
bad.
two kids ran out in
It's
front
still
of me
up
when I
there,
was
but
picking
it's
up
not,
Tyler today.
it's not what it
They
was 6
like
months
darted
ago.
in front of the car, and
That
then
one
after they got to the other side,
Dad and
I
I
just slammed on the
built
brakes. I was so scared.
years ago.
And they were laughing
Oh,
and like
never
high
mind.
fiving and stuff. So it was
But
obviously
they're
like
better
a
to
dare
make
that they
it
would
cross.
see if they could.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, you'll need to
Like,
talk
I
to a
hope your
banker.
mom saw you
The,
do
the
that.
old one that we've got, that used to be a boat trailer,
They just don't think.
50s,
They
around
just
50s and
don't.
60s model boat trailer. We turned it into
It's a good talking moment for
flatbed,
my
16
own kid. I was like,
foot
don't you ever.
flatbed and doesn't put
That's like
bands
my
on it
son,
and
he
everything.
stays.
But one of the smart things that he did was
That's the one time I need.
he went out to 3/4 iron metal and
Alone,
got grading,
he's just on
galvanized
section
grading
490
and put on.
fine.
So
Yeah.
you don't
Yeah, you
carry
had
anything
someone else
that
in
you
there
don't
like,
want to
hey,
fall
I bet you
through,
could
but
do it.
Yeah.
you don't have to worry about it rotting out.
Yeah.
But that old thing is in such,
Why are you wasting eggs on this?
it's old.
Groceries are high.
We replaced the axles on it
I
twice.
think I take $3 out of his piggy bank for that one.
Wasted 5 months here.
Probably do some more to it, get it fixed up.
I had my
put new
daughter
wheels
go
and
in the
stuff
other
on
day.
it, and
She said she had to bring mustard for some school. They were all
He made
bringing
him
something.
some pretty hard.
And we had some in the pantry. She goes, I'll just pay you for it. Like, how much is the mustard? And I said, oh, it's like $10. And she's
About 1/8 inch
mustard. And I was like, yeah, everything's going up
plate
right now.
fenders.
She was shocked, but I had her going for a while. Finally, I was like, no, it's like $1, like $1.50. It'll be fine. But it's fun when you can get them going for a
Yeah,
minute.
the expanded metals, so expensive now. Can't
Oh, I
believe
know.
it.
Well, even the fiberglass
Yeah.
that they use for the decking or the composite.
I bought a 4x4 the other day. $60
I was, well,
for 4x4 ship. Expanded metal.
Today I emailed him,
That was it. Steel supply.
just give him open meetings information.
yeah,
So when are we gonna try to do
He
it?
just said it. It's-
Now,
Yeah, I just emailed him.
yeah, what is this? You know, Can't run
That's
through
Yeah,
it.
this is a big galvanized grading.
I was thinking budgets.
And Eric was giving you like
It's-
props, and now it's a question on the agenda.
And
so
you
no,
talk
read
about,
it.
it makes it a lot easier to, well, match something
What's funny
down.
though is that's
And
exactly
grip.
what I was
You
asking.
drive
Eric
right up
tonight.
in
We're
a
gonna look
pouring
at the
rain.
dates for the budget stuff going, and that's what I thought.
Yeah, I'm
it
thinking
was,
about stealing the
the
ramps off of
canvas
it,
part
because he
for
built
whatever
some
reason. I was like,
flip-up ramps and put them on my trailer.
yeah, I missed the whole general election part. Oh, that's gonna
And
be
they're a lot
budget.
heavier.
Okay.
That's-
They're a little longer than my ramp. Okay, it's 6:15. We will call this meeting to order. This is the regular meeting for May 9th, Monday, May 9th. Roll call of the council members. All council members with the exception of Councilmember Brown are present. Do we have any public comments for the regular meeting? See no hands. Okay. Next item up is a service award, which will be going to outgoing council member Mark Brown for his dedicated service to the city. He did not choose to be reelected. Unfortunately, he's not here tonight. But I'd like to say that he's spent a lot of time helping out the city, helping out a lot of the organizations within the city, the beautification, KRB, and multiple, the fire, I think he's been out with the fire department and helped them a few times and on some of their activities. I believe he was out on the, well, he's been out a lot in the city and helped. He's also coaches for the softball league, and he stays busy. He's been very, very let's just say he watches the budget like a hawk, and he wants to make sure that the citizens get the best bang for their buck and not be taxed as great as they could be. That's one of the reasons he's one of the folks that's helped us get to where we are now in this last few years. And we've been real proud to have him. It's going to be, I believe that he will be missed, and I hope Mr. Langford, when he comes in on the next council meeting, I wish him the best of luck with council and look forward to working with him. But Mark has been a very, very good member of this council and has always brought something to the table, looks for the things that we don't always look for, and has been real good about bringing up the information and making sure that we look it over pretty closely. So to the citizens of Richwood and those that are here, thank you, Mark. I know you're not here, but hopefully you're watching it on video. We do appreciate all your hard work. We do appreciate the care that you've given and the assistance you've given the city and the hard work that you've placed into it. We appreciate your family's patience with all the time that you've given to this city and sharing it with us. So thank you very much, Mark. Okay, and he has been a council member from 2017 to 2022. All right. She was getting tired of listening to me. I know what it was. Consent agenda, minutes from the regular meeting held April 11th, 2022, and minutes from the special meeting held April 22, 2022, and investment report Q2 FY 2022. Any discussion?
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion made by Councilmember Johnson, seconded by Councilmember Yarborough. Councilmember Johnson, how do you vote, sir?
Aye.
Councilmember Yarborough, or Councilmember Strawn, how do you vote, ma'am?
Aye.
Councilmember Yarborough, how do you vote?
Aye.
And Councilmember Escalante, how do you vote?
Aye.
Let the record show that the council, or the Consent agenda has been approved. Okay, presentation, engineering report on elevated storage. Clifton.
So Strand Associates, based on past conversation of infrastructure upgrades we know we're going to be facing after the development of Oakwood Shores and Marquis and Magnolia, Strand Associates conducted a study and applied hydraulic modeling to several different scenarios that we had requested, and they're here to kind of run through the presentation and answer any questions y'all might have.
So you can scroll through all the words to the figures, yeah. So like Cliff said, we were asked to evaluate TCQ's elevated storage capacity requirements in regards to the city of Richwood. Back in 2019, we reviewed the draft water capital improvements plan developed by Freeze and Nichols, to where they said that the city would need a water well, a ground storage tank, a booster pump station, and water mains, and this was for the North Water Plant project and the $4 million. From that, our review of it, we also determined that a new elevated storage tank would be needed within the next 5 years, but that was out of the $4 million budget, so that wasn't part of the scope of the North Water Plant. So for this evaluation, we looked at 3 areas. The first is at the North Water Plant site. The second is around the 2004-288 intersection, and then the third is across the street from City Hall. And from these evaluations, we also considered Oakwood Shores being completely built out and the decommission of the 75,000-gallon elevated tank, which is the smaller one in the city. And so this appendix shows the pressures in the system, and the pinks being poor, the purples and blues being better, and the greens being great. And so you can see this is the existing conditions, and then the page after shows after Oakwood Shores would be completely built out, and you can see, and you're better in the handouts that you have, that in Oakwood Shores they are purples, and so that means that the pressures are going to be very bad once it's completely built out. And then if you go to the set appendix B,
There's a,
no, keep going. One, there. So this shows the fire flows with red and orange being poor, green being better, and blues being great. As a side note, the red and oranges are all on lines that are less than 6 inches, and this makes sense because according to TCQ, you can't have a fire hydrant on a line that's smaller than 6 inches. So now that I've explained what the colors mean in the figures, I'm going to go into the results. So if you go up, one more. So this shows City Hall, and we wanted to show what pressures would do if we had an elevated tank, a bigger elevated tank in the same general area as your other 2 are now. And compared to the existing pressures, the pressures would be improved in Audubon Woods, but around Oakwood Shores and around the west side of the city, things aren't really improved. And from this, a tank in the southern or central parts isn't really a great option for the city. And then go up 4. So this one is for the North Water Plant, and for the 2004-288 intersection, they're pretty much the same. They show the same pressures being improved throughout the city to above 50 psi, including Oakwood Shores. At the North Water Plant, there is room for an elevated tank, but if you were to put one at the intersection, you would need to acquire land in order to put that there. And so at the North Water Plant site, that price would be eliminated. And then lastly, we reviewed, or in the draft water capital improvements plan, Freeze and Nichols had an alternative to raise the hydraulic grade, which basically means to raise the existing 250,000 gallon tank by 23 feet and then to put this new tank also at that higher elevation. From this, we saw that at the City Hall, they would increase overall pressures above 55 PSI, and then for the other two sites, it would increase above 60 PSI. And while this is great, by not elevating the tanks, you would still have above 50 PSI throughout the city, and that would save the city money because right now it's over $700,000 to just raise the existing tank, as well as $1.8 million just to build the new tank.
Lord, can I interrupt you
Yeah.
for a second? And one of the reasons we wanted to look at the higher elevations is because we cannot effectively serve third stories in buildings right now. The only thing I knew to do was to have them look at that to see if we could serve better, and it really turns out that it doesn't make that big a difference. We would have to add additional towers in other locations other than what we're just talking about.
Right.
Past compliance.
Yep.
To achieve
And so then, looking at the population projections, it is still anticipated within 5 years that your elevated storage tank capacity would pass the 85% threshold for TCQ, and so a tank would be needed by then. Also, at that point, you would have to decide if you wanted to elevate the tanks or not, because if you created the new tank at a higher elevation and didn't raise the old one, then that old one would have very hard time turning over water, and you would have to have more infrastructure in order to get that old tank to do what it needs to do. So then after, like Cliff said, we reviewed it for the apartment buildings, and you really need each apartment complex to have it either its own booster station or booster pumps or something specific to that apartment in order to get those pressures up to the second and third stories. So after modeling was completed and reviewed, we saw that putting a tank in the northern portion of the site would be very beneficial. And we also saw that raising the elevation would increase the pressures, but not to the degree that the second and third stories are needed. Any questions?
So if we build a new water tower, it needs to be to the same height we currently have?
Yes.
And on the north side of town?
Yes.
And if we built it at the North Water Plant, we wouldn't have to worry about buying any property.
But you're-
That and the piping
Right.
is pretty much there.
Right.
The tower and the distribution is be very simple.
So your suggestion is 2004-288 is primary and North Water Plant would be secondary, or
North
both?
Water Plant primary, just
Primary.
because you don't have to buy additional land. Any other questions?
What is the life of the existing tower, and does raising it, does that any lifetime extension or?
No, one of the reasons we thought the decommission of 75,000 gallons, I believe it was constructed in the 80s. It was the first elevated tank in the city. We're already 40 years old. To be honest, the tower is not in bad shape, but also some of that pressure producing infrastructure seems to be needed. We need to spread it out a little bit more. I'm going to reiterate, we believe that the North Water Plant ground storage tank and booster pumps are going to stabilize what distribution pressure we have, but it's not really going to up it very much. Yet the far reaches of the distribution is still, I would say it's still fairly bad.
If we didn't deconstruct the old water tower right now, would it cause any problems with the other two? Cause any issues with the other two?
It wouldn't.
It'd be an extra supply, in other words.
It wouldn't, but I think you're.
It's kind of like a wide spot in the line, but that's about it.
I would imagine you're going to turn around to talk about decommissioning within a decade anyway.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of the timing.
So-
It'd probably be the best possible scenario, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So if you put one on the corner of 288 and 2004, does that, I'm just asking, does that help if you have to decommission the one later? Does it help to have it more central in the city? Or will it make a difference at all?
No.
I just don't want the other side of town to have the same pressure issues. Like if,
Right.
if that one goes down, I don't want to just shift it from the north side to the
Because-
south side.
Yeah, so because the way the city is and Oakwood Shores is, its own little area, putting it at the North Water Plant or even at the intersection, it still benefits the southern part of the city.
Okay.
And we just put it in the northeast quadrant, but really it could go in any quadrant of that intersection and have the same effect.
Okay.
Yeah, my thought process was if it was trying to look at the funding and everything, if we didn't have to demolish the old tower, we could wait for a few more years and get our chips, get a little more chips in and a little more money, and then when we get ready to build a third or whatever, when we have to, then take that one down if it's not going to hurt the operation of the other, or it's not going to hurt the water system operation.
It's not gonna hurt the water system operation, but it does, it does make councils more strongly consider the capacity of future elevated storage.
Right.
Because we also don't want to work ourselves into a situation where we have so much capacity that we can't turn over the water
Right.
in a decent amount of time. So if we undersize one
Right.
to compensate for a 40-year-old tower already being there, it starts to cause a conflict, I guess.
What's the life capacity of the new North Water Plant?
I think we're anticipating 30 years. I think we did the bond over 25. Don't quote me on that, Roy, I think that was correct.
I wasn't around back when that was, but, now we need an elevated one, and we just built a ground one. Well, we couldn't build the elevated one from the get-go.
Well,
Obviously funding, but we did a bond.
yeah, funding,
So-
but I think a lot of that's just attributed to the 23% growth we saw in 1 year and just trying to catch up to par. I guess we would have had to have the ground storage tank.
You'd have still had to have the ground
Because we
storage
still
down
have to
there.
have the high service pump
The booster.
capacity, which I think has to pump it from ground. Don't.
Yeah, there's
Right.
different systems and cities and water supply corporations handle things differently. When you have a very small water supply corporation, a lot of times you see them pump directly from the groundwater well into an elevated tank.
Right.
The problem is, from time to time, you could pump a sand seam out of the aquifer, and then you just pumped a load of sand into your distribution system
Right.
that's gonna make it to all of the houses. Having a ground storage tank on site, you get an extra benefit, because you're pumping into that ground storage tank. That sand settles out in the bottom, and from time to time, you clean it out. The booster station then takes the water from the ground storage tank and pumps it up into the elevated towers. So it really reduces the risk of that sand getting out into the system.
So do we have a booster or water plant under our old current tower? Is there a water plant there, or are we just feeding straight in from
We're just feeding
PWA?
straight in from the wells, but the other booster station we have is down south of town, close to the park.
But not the older one that we're speaking of, about demolishing.
The old water tower, yeah.
Yeah, that
We've
was.
got a ground storage down there. How many gallons?
330,000.
330,000. Then we've got the elevated storage, and then the new one here.
Yeah, one 2004 and one 720 North Mayhew. And those leg towers are equipped with a catch basin.
Right.
Yeah.
It does have a bowl in there
Right.
for that to settle out.
For your solids,
It's
yeah.
not as efficient, I don't think, as ground storage.
So how much are we, this is a 5-year outlook, correct? So if we do a 5-year outlook and we're saying that we're gonna sacrifice some height on a new elevated storage tank to match our existing because of funding right now, how much does that hurt us on a 10-year or a 15-year outlook when, we could have used that extra pressure?
Sacrificing the height?
Mhm.
I don't think it hurts you at all, is what we're saying. It's just gonna have to be something that's understood, future commercial construction, that if you're moving water up to a third story, you're gonna have to implement whatever means necessary to get it there.
If we go up, as it stands right now, if we go up any more, we have to go up on all of them.
Right.
So
Right.
instead of changing one, we're gonna change all. There's really no hope.
Not to get
One of
that
them will be
much.
running over, the
Yeah.
shorter one will be running over all the time.
Yeah.
Right.
Freeport ran into that back in the 60s.
So basically, any new development that comes in now, from here on, if you're going above two floors, then it's just a requirement, they have to pump the water up.
Yeah, so just make it a requirement. You want your permit, then you fund the booster. If not, we're only doing it up to a certain height,
Yeah.
Yeah,
or pressure, whatever.
in doing so, if we were to raise the larger of the two tanks, the 23 feet, to increase pressures by 10 PSI and construct a higher elevated tank at the North Water Plant or at the 288, 2004 intersection, it would also have a negative effect on your existing wells and on your booster pumps. They would no longer be able to pump as much because they have to pump to a higher elevation.
Discharge head's a lot greater.
I would feel maybe the lines, we have some pretty old water lines.
I'm
You
sure
start
we
putting
would
more
see
pressure
some
in
of
here
that
and,
too. Right,
no,
yes, sir. I'm sure there would be some of that.
yeah.
Any other questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So before you close out, Steve, if I could, I just want to talk to council and maybe think of a time we could bring it back. We went through this with the bond projects, and we understand how long planning and construction does take. Now, this is just, it's just an estimate on, build out projections for Oakwood Shores, but if we get behind the curve, there's nothing we can do to change that. I'm not saying it needs to be today, but I would urge council to consider moving sooner rather than later, and maybe next budget, maybe talk about it again, bring it back next year and see how we sit then and how you feel about it.
Yeah, because this one that we're doing now isn't even complete yet, and we started this one in what, 2018?
2019.
Yeah,
Well, yeah, voting on the bond and everything.
yeah, voting on the bond and doing all the funding and the engineering, that started back in 2018, right? Or-
Yes.
Is that right?
That's correct. We have
So
to-
that's 4 years. If we're
Correct.
looking at a 5-year projection, we should be started,
Yeah.
Correct.
right?
And next budget season is gonna be past election time for a bond anyways, right? So if we,
We probably, would we need a bond, or we would be
Oh, yeah.
funded?
We did,
Yeah.
we only did the bond because of the petition,
Right,
so we don't need a bond.
we wouldn't need a
for
bond for this
Yeah,
one.
for-
issue, or not election, for a bond, I'm sorry, I said
Right.
that wrong, but
Correct. If
technically
for,
don't need an election.
for TCQ compliance, you don't.
You don't.
And we found that it's not a very popular thing to do, to try to do revenue bonds or something like that.
I think that
And
last
I think
election was
that
done.
it's just a miscommunication between citizens because they thought they had a choice.
Yeah.
Right,
Which it was a compliance matter, they really didn't.
And I think the administration at that time elected to do the election to appease the citizens.
Yes.
It wasn't necessary. We could have went ahead and just said. this
right,
is what
it
we're
was
doing.
necessary anyway.
Right. When it comes to health and safety, we
So-
have that ability.
So can I ask, we're looking at the location in Oakwood Shores, possibly where the North Water Plant is, and possibly 2004 288B. Is there any way in the time that, that you have to maybe see how much it would cost to get? Because I know all that land is for sale right now. I don't know what it would be.
Yeah, we would have to,
Just
we would
reach out
pay a
and see
third
if-
party, I guess, to come out and do an appraisal on a section of land. It would probably have to be across, on the south side of 2004, in that corner. And we would have to see what it was appraised at. I know eminent domain is a viable option, but you still have to present fair market value.
Right.
how many acres is needed, or the footprint that a elevated storage?
It's nothing like the water plant
Okay.
site that you have now. It can fit on a very small.
Probably an acre, half acre.
Half acre would probably be appropriate. And I would like to say that, there's a lot of moving parts with the water plant project. There was all the lines, so there was a bunch of easements tied with that.
Yes.
The booster station involves a lot of electrical, so there's a lot of timely design things that you have to work through on something like that. For an elevated tank, if you were to,
decide that you wanted to move forward with it, that's something that could likely be designed and constructed within a year and a half.
Yeah. And not having to pay for the property is probably
Not
a
having to,
big bonus there.
yes.
I mean,
And existing pipes, that's another.
yeah, and there's,
And
you know,
existing
there's,
piping.
there's a lot of things to consider. You know, if it's not on the site, it's also tying it back into distribution board under state highway through state right of way. It's not doable, it's just gets a little more complicated, a little more
Yeah.
expensive.
A lot more costly.
Do we plan to extend any more? The only thing I keep thinking is, I know we've had such trouble with, moving that way. I worry about if it's going to benefit the other areas too, just having it the furthest away that it is, I don't know the right way to say that, but.
Are you talking about the south side, Melissa, or are you talking about somewhere else?
Yes, and then all the way down, it just seems like it's further out, and not as central. And if you're having to decommission the other one, I just worry how that's gonna work. I mean, I'm sure y'all have done that.
I think based on the hydraulic modeling, I think
They're
we're
sending
pretty much,
everything to this way.
Right,
run consistently
Both
the
ends.
same, but I think there's always gonna be a challenge with second story and third story apartments. But I don't think distribution pressure, with regards to compliance is gonna be an issue anywhere in town.
okay. I just don't wanna make a problem for some other area by moving it too far out of town, to the
Always
edge of
build
town.
a third.
Well, you've got the south high volume pumps and the north high volume pumps all pumping to the center. So that's gonna help. You're gonna have your elevated storage. If it's right there, a half a mile down the road, it's probably not gonna hurt anything on this end as well.
It's not something.
You've got you got good pressure down here. It's over there where we didn't have the pumps is where we didn't have the pressure.
Yeah.
And the elevated storage is gonna help us for fires and different situations,
I just,
when we do lose the pumps, keep us above the minimum pressure.
I just don't wanna see us, save a little bit of money here by putting it on a location we already have, but then end up hitting another problem in a few years and dumping on someone else. Like, I just don't wanna be that person.
I understand.
I don't think that's a problem.
Okay, good. That's all I was checking. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or discussion? All righty, I guess we'll move on to item number 7. Engineering agreement, supplemental task order, memo for the discuss and consider approving agreement with Strand Associates and supplemental task order for engineering and design services for ARPA grants projects.
So council knows that we submitted our project request or wishes for the ARPA grant, and the cost opinions came back over our budget, so we had to trim that down. And Strand Associates submitted revised cost opinions that covered infrastructure upgrades, redundancy, and power at water plants, and we are a little bit over with the full engineering and design. So what we were requesting council to do, they submitted a draft of the agreement for the ARPA projects and a supplemental task order, which we had talked about in previous meetings. This is a formality, and for efficiency purposes, we were asking council to approve both with the understanding that we will not expend any funds on any services we don't use. And this is why Eric recommended changing the order to get the big project out of the way first, and we are certain we can cover that. And then we can take another look and see if we need to cut the project list further.
Yeah, council, this is, and we talked about this last meeting, but this basically is brought about by the sudden increases in materials, labor, so on, inflation. So we saw we were about the 20% mark already, and we don't want to stop or pull the project and end up short. So this will allow us to pay Strand separately and go as far as we can with the ARPA funds and knock out the big project and then work on the little ones from there. And then if and when we get to that point, we'll just stop at that and be done. But there was no way to cut one piece of the project without ending up between $75,000 and $125,000 short. So we would have missed out on $125,000-ish in that project, which for us, that's a generator at a well site. So we're just going to try to get it to go as far as we can. If that makes sense.
It does, and just reiterate to council, we can't go past that budget, those grant funds. That's what we have. It will require y'all's approval to go over that. I'm kind of surprised that they did not want a resolution for that specifically, but we haven't been asked for it yet. I would imagine it's coming.
Any questions?
You say you can't go over it, but if it was like $15,000, something like that, and you were that close to it, would you come back? I mean, is that something you could come
Yeah.
back to us for and say,
Yeah.
we're so close?
I think we're obligated to do so.
Okay,
Yeah.
just so you don't lose it.
Yeah, correct. I just, like I said, we just want to get the approval done as a formality and for efficiency purposes. And
The ARPA funds will be expended. That was the goal, is to
yes,
to max out the ARPA funds.
yes.
Right, okay. So then just come to us with whatever's left over. Okay, that's what I just want to
Yeah.
make sure. I know we're trying to squeeze it all in, but,
Right, and right now we anticipate that amount to be $35,370.
okay.
But that changes by the minute.
Yeah.
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
yeah, we
Yeah.
are truly.
I just didn't want to nail us into a certain thing. You can
Yes.
come back to us and just tell us how much it goes over. and-
Absolutely.
Any further discussion, questions, or do we have a motion to move on this? Yeah,
Do y'all need some further information?
that's
Because I got to move on something to move forward with the ARPA projects.
right.
Is there an expiration time frame on those funds, or?
Well, we've already approved the projects. The projects are up and running. This is, I mean, I don't know if there's a time frame, but this is how we're going to pay Strand for the project.
And to start the design process, we need to, and if council is not comfortable approving both of them, we could make a motion just to approve the engineering agreement and not the supplemental task order. But I need to kind of get one or the other if we wish to move forward.
I guess with how volatile everything is in our supply chain, obviously these 100 kW generators and the 125 kW generators, is that a locked-in price right now? I mean, we approve it and then we start the engineering to design, and then 4 months from now, we're like, oh, guess what? The Cummins generators just went up 50 grand.
Yeah, it's not a locked-in price right now. It's the best.
But we have the funds already, right? I mean, is there a way that we can,
We have half of them.
well, half of the funds to at least purchase the
Big ticket item.
the big ticket items at a rate before everything starts going up, and we end up like the North Water plant with, you know, $88,000.
Problem is the bigger ticket items are down at the South Water plant. It's the valves, the pipes, the
Motors.
the motors, the stuff that we have to do down there. So you're gonna fund that first until we get our second half of the funding. I think that, they paid half this year, and we'll get the other half soon.
It's been about 6 months now.
Yeah.
Since we got the first half, and
I know what you're saying, lock down as much as you can, but our big expenses are really the ductile iron and the work down there and the pumps,
Yeah,
which is the process we're working on first. There's no real good, to be honest with you, there's no real good way to do this.
Yeah.
We're just trying to get the biggest bang for the buck that we can and expend the ARPA funds to the fullest extent. And if we have to go out of pocket, that's why we came and said, you know, if we have to go out of pocket, then we'll, you know, we're gonna spend 35, hopefully to get 125.
I mean, I wouldn't say it's free money because there is no free money, but this is some money that was brought forth by the government
Yes.
for infrastructure development. So I would recommend that with the unknown factor of our raw materials, and if we have half of the funding now, we purchase, you know, at least lock that in, because who knows, that might change in the next 6 months. And then the engineering, hopefully that labor doesn't go up from the engineering design within the next 6 months, but at least we, you know, they'll have their funding secure and we can have raw materials secure and not be in that predicament.
Well, I mean, we have to go through the design first to get the specifications of what those materials will be. And the sooner we can move on that, the sooner we can do a bid award, the sooner we can get to that spot. I get what you're saying, Rory. I appreciate it.
I just figured, you know, it's a 480 volt, 3-phase, 100 kilowatt generator. I mean, that's the spec.
And that's just high level right now. We don't know that that's exactly what it has to be, but that's what we put in the cost opinion for purposes of reaching out to different suppliers just to see what that would cost. We did work with Cliff and others at the city, took a lot of pictures to see what kind of equipment that generator would serve, and that's what our initial estimate came out to be. But it may end up that the generator needs to be a little bit bigger, maybe you can get away with it being a little bit smaller. And I guess I would add that, you know, Strand's fee for the South Water Plant and the 2 generators is the sum of both agreements together. And the reason why we kind of set it up like this, to where one was being funded under the ARPA program and the other is a supplemental task order, was just to maximize the city's benefit through the ARPA funds. You know, we could have funded Strand Services completely under the ARPA agreement, but then that could have been $35,000 that once the bids come in, the city would need to approve that extra money to go towards that.
grant admin or.
Yeah, I don't think grant admin would split their fee up. in a manner that
Yeah,
would
they have a flat rate. And we just, we try.
So, yeah, I mean, we just set it up like this to try and help smooth things over so we can move forward with it and maximize those funds. So, not approving the task order, we would have to look at the scope of services and figure out what we might need to cut.
Cut from the existing project list. And we thought it might be beneficial to make that decision later if we had to go ahead and move, anticipating that we will hopefully get all the way through. And if we don't, we'll deal with that when it comes. But by no way are you committing the city to $35,000 right now. That's not what we're doing.
With the work on the north or south station, or south plant, that's old pumps, old motors, things that could fail.
They're
things
already
that,
failing.
Yeah, and things that, when they did fail, generator wouldn't be able to help anyway, correct? We need those are higher priority. I understand we need generators and things, but we need to have something for them to run. And that plant's probably 50 years old if it's not older.
Yeah.
And it's been taken care of, but it's time to upgrade those pumps. I imagine the volutes are probably washed out pretty well. Imagine the motors are probably getting to the point where when you turn them on, They're a little bit on the on the
Yeah,
edge
yeah,
of
it's a-
FLA.
Yeah, the site's an issue. It's old, it's old. But, what I mean by that last statement is that, just like Ryan said, we don't know if it could be a little bit more, a little bit less. That number could be impacted one way or the other. The reason that we did the South Water Plant is because it was larger cost. We felt we could at least get through that and have the smaller portion and be able to take a look at that. If we have to cut a generator, we have to cut a generator if council doesn't want to spend additional funds. But
So we'll have that stopping point, and that time it'll
Right.
come back to council and say, hey, this is our forecast.
Definitely.
yeah,
X way, 90% through the south plant.
yes, but as the way the project sits now, this will be the full engineering cost today. And if we have to cut part of the project, we have to cut part of the project. That will be ultimately up to you guys.
Then it's
That-
engineered for the future, right? If we
Then
find-
it will only be on the material side.
So 3 years from now, if we can't do it with this ARPA funds and we find funds later, then it's engineered.
But basically, in layman's terms, we're talking a generator. At the end of we can't quarter up the South Water Plant project. You just can't stop them, you can't. But we can stop, out the 3 generators, we can stop one, and the other's 100K. Or, whatever, so that's why we went back and did this. It's the most feasible way to max out ARPA funds and get the biggest project done first and
Right.
go from there.
Council, keep in mind, we'll understand what this is as soon as there's a low bid or a bid that's brought to council for award. We're gonna know better where we sit then.
Any further questions or discussion? Or do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve agreement with Strand Associates and supplemental task order for engineering design service for ARPA grant projects.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Councilmember Johnson made the motion, Councilmember Escalante seconded. Councilmember Johnson, how do you vote, sir?
Aye.
Councilmember Strawn, how do you vote, ma'am?
Aye.
Councilmember Yarborough, how do you vote, sir?
Aye.
Councilmember Escalante, how do you vote, sir?
Aye.
Let the record show that the motion has been carried.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's see. Discussion or capital improvement update.
One more.
Should have one more.
Oh, one more. I'm sorry. Solid waste service contract. Discuss and consider extending the City of Richwood's current solid waste contract with Waste Connections for an additional year.
So in the last council meeting, we discussed this. I had a couple requests from council about possible pricing and some comparable or data for basis of comparison. And to be honest, it was a little tough to come by that. Amir Waste, as we had talked about, was the only other company that expressed interest, I guess in the past 2 rounds of bidding the service. So I did approach them with regards to pricing, and the only thing that they're willing to do is to have the city look at pricing that's already under contract with another municipality. Our closest one is Freeport. To be honest, I did not have the time to scour through their contracts and see what was more representative of the city of Richwood. And Freeport's is not a great example. Their trash service differs so much than ours. There's so many factors I would imagine that go into deciding, cost for a contract such as this, being frequency of pickup, large debris, heavy trash pickup, recycling, franchise fees, whether that's going to be in existence or not. So I did not have really anything I can give to council, so I apologize for that. The 1-year extension, city should not see any significant price increases. That's not to say that increases won't be there, renewal with Waste Connections due to fuel, due to manpower, anything like that, but their contract costs should not increase overall. And before they expressed that it would if we rebid the contract or put the service out for bid. So I'm recommending to council at this point in time We are so close to the cutoff that we go ahead and extend with Waste Connections an additional year. After that year, that contract matures, and it's going to have to go out for bid anyway, the way I understand it. So let's extend one more year. The service has been good, and the pricing will remain consistent as long as nothing else goes haywire. And then we'll start discussing this a little bit sooner in the year, probably February of 23.
Any questions?
Make a motion to extend the city of Richwood's current solid waste contract with Waste Connections for an additional year.
Okay, I have a motion made by Councilmember Yarborough. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second by Councilmember Strawn. Councilmember Johnson, how do you vote, sir?
Aye.
Councilmember Strawn, how do you vote, ma'am?
Aye.
Councilmember Yarborough, how do you vote, sir?
Aye.
Councilmember Escalante, how do you vote, sir?
Aye.
Let the record reflect that the motion is carried. Thank you, Cliff. Okay, next. Capital Improvement Projects Update.
I gotta drive a bit tonight, so we're gonna get my stuff out of the way. I gotta go be up at training at 8 o'clock in the morning, about 5.5 hours away. So, basically the two ongoing projects right now, ARPA, which we're moving forward on, drainage project, three, and the North Water Plant. Drainage projects is going along very well. I understand from Matula that they're gonna be closing out this west ditch portion probably sometime next week, from what I understand, and immediately move over to the east ditch and start work there at 2004 at that pass-through area. From what I understand, the North Water Plant project, they're talking the end of this week. I gotta tell them orientation on the logo, and I think coatings will be complete.
Thank you for saying coatings, by the way.
Yeah,
Yes.
not Krylon, for
Yeah.
sure.
What is that orientation of the logo?
We're trying to put it towards where the entrance is going to be placed off 2004. So it's visible to 2004. It's not back off in the subdivision. It doesn't make much sense.
Is that on the water tank?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Not facing
South,
south coming,
Yeah.
it will be facing south to
Yes.
those
Yeah.
coming into Richwood?
yes.
No.
Well,
Well, it'd be facing 2004, which would be,
they had that
More
landscaping
south.
easement of the berm there, and a section that's going to be taken out, and we're trying to orient that to that opening
Yeah.
within
Ah,
that.
okay. What is the design? Is it the same like what we have on the other one?
Like this.
Like
It's the new,
the newer logo.
Oh,
it's
the
the
new,
new, yeah,
with a ghost scope, right?
yes.
sure.
Maybe a little lookout tower up there, like the Marfa lights.
And as of right now, it's about all we have.
Thank you, Cliff.
Thank you.
Drive
And be
safe.
careful.
I will.
Be careful, Cliff. So pass. Then,
Eagle Pass.
5 hours or 50 minutes.
Okay. Discussion and action items. Discuss and consider setting a date for a special meeting to canvass the 2022 general election.
So the general election was held Saturday, and we do have pretty confident results. They haven't been officially tallied by the county to me yet. They, the early ballot, the ballot voting board meets to do that. Per election code, we cannot canvass the election before the 3rd day after the election and not after the 11th day after the election. So that puts us May 10th to May 18th. So this meeting just didn't fall in time. So I just need to set a date for council that we can get at least a quorum to meet to canvass the election and swear in the new member and re-elected members. And just with 72-hour posting requirements, Friday's the earliest date that I can get an agenda posted to meet. So Friday, Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday are our dates to choose from.
Please not Friday.
Please, Mike says no Friday, Tuesday.
Okay, I was gonna say,
I'm
Friday's
just, those are just the
crazy.
Yeah,
dates
Friday-
legally
Friday.
we're allowed to hold the
Friday's
meeting.
busy for me, but I'm free any other day next week.
I just threw out Monday because that's Monday's the day we normally meet.
Yeah, Monday's
But
great.
if it's-
Monday would be rough.
if
What
it's
what are the other
Tuesday,
Monday?
Tuesday or Wednesday. Wednesday's our last day. We have to do it by the 18th. By 18th is our last day.
How's Tuesday for everybody?
I'm free any day, yeah.
Tuesday works for me.
Tuesday.
Good.
So Tuesday, 6 p.m. is good?
Okay.
I don't need action, I just needed a date to set it.
Okay. All right, discussion and possible action regarding bus stop benches and shelters within the city.
Mayor, Council, in your packet, I provided some email exchange that I've had with the operations manager with the bus lines. Basically to act on what Mike had asked. According to them, TxDOT does not mind allowing bus stops in the right of way. Just we have to seek their permission, but it does have to be engineered, and it does have to be ADA compliant, and that's where the majority of the cost comes from. He did advise that they're working with a company right now that sometimes will provide benches in lieu of advertising on there, but I've had several discussions about this. I'm not sure that we would, we don't know what kind of criteria they're looking for as far as ridership goes or whatever. So I got to hold our breath on that. But apparently, it's pretty expensive to put a bus stop out, and that's just a seat, much less shelter. It has to be. They all have to be engineered, has to be ADA compliant, and has to have wheelchair access up and down, and so it is very expensive. And the last cost estimate I got on it was $25,000 to $37,000 per.
Do we have a high-use stop in town?
No, sir. Our average ridership through the city is 100 riders per month, and that's not broken down by stop.
It just means they pass through.
That's just passing through.
So they don't have the number that's like exactly how many people get on the bus in Richwood, just how many people pass through Richwood on the bus.
My suggestion to him in one of the emails was if the company does come through that does the advertising, my suggestion would be one south at
Near the apartment.
near the apartments, one north near the apartments, and one right here on the corner of City Hall. That way, if you have foot traffic, you can get people kind of centrally located. But that's the general information I have on that.
So basically no need at this time?
I've never had an inquiry about it. In fact, I've never even had an inquiry about a bus stop. Do we have buses?
We looked into it at one point because we did have one lady who was frequently at the road. We would get calls on her,
Yeah.
but she was waiting for the bus. She's not living here anymore, so
Oh, that's why I hadn't seen her.
she's relocated to Richwood, I think. But other than that, we've not received any calls.
Is that on our website?
Bus stops?
Yeah, I noticed that was on several of our neighboring cities. They have it on their website as
The transit?
just a page, just for information,
We can do that.
We can.
something.
I also want to put, we were going to anyway, and put the disabled rider program that they have, which is, I think, very advantageous, and I think several people here take advantage of that. It's fairly inexpensive transportation to med centers and so on.
Let me ask probably a stupid question, but I know those buses are probably 2 ton or 1.5 ton. Would there be any problem with having a bench, say, under the out here on the parking lot or in front of the city hall, having a bench there, and then having the bus come in and through the driveway and head out, make that a pickup area.
It's your building, you can put a bench in there. You
I
want.
just,
Yeah, I
I'm
don't know if
just,
they would do that.
That's what kind of, you know,
because
you
they kind
could,
of
you
do
could just
that at
stand out
college.
there in the middle of the, on the side of the road,
Mhm.
but if you just put a bench there, it has to be ADA compliant.
Right,
And
Well-
what says the side of the road's ADA compliant?
and it's not a state right of way, but it'd be ADA compliant here. But if they just came up kind of like they do at the hospitals.
I can sure get with the operations manager and see if they would make this an official stop. And
Well,
see.
just.
But I
ask
mean,
him
we
if
could put a bench outside just to have a bench outside.
Sure.
Yeah,
And it just
then-
happens to be where there's a bus stop,
and if people need to be picked up
Mike, if
there.
you can't beat them, join them.
right?
So, yeah, it just come to mind if that, 'cause
think
that's
that's a
kind of
great
how they
idea
do it
there.
at the hospital. They'll just pull up
Can
there
a
and run
KRB
through. and-
sponsor a bench? Nothing to do with one or the other, just a bench. Make
Yeah,
it-
really.
make
It's
it
covered.
beautiful.
Maybe that's a
Make this
future agenda
compliant.
item, is to
Make
have
the city
KRB
beautiful.
put a bench.
But the
across
one
City
thing that
Hall.
we need to look at is liability.
Beautification.
That would be a good
It's a
discussion
memorial
with the
bench.
attorney.
There you go,
Yes,
there you
very
go.
good. We can name it.
Yes.
But let me do some checking. I can bring it back to council.
Thank you.
Or just call it Harvey.
The Harvey bench. All righty.
I do appreciate you looking into it, Eric.
Not a problem.
All right. Let's see, we are at budget amendments. Discuss and consider approving resolution 22-R-64, amending the FY 2022 budget to approve transfer from CCPD to the general fund for the purchase of biometric fingerprint systems.
So, Mayor and Council, Police Chief got the approval from CCPD to amend their budget, which you all have to approve, to buy this biometric fingerprint system. CCPD approved it, and so we're bringing it to you. The funds would then, I would transfer them from CCPD into the general fund for the police. To buy that equipment.
Any questions or discussions? Or motions?
Make a motion to approve resolution 22-R-64, amending the fiscal year 2022 budget to approve transfer from CCPD to the general fund for the purchase of a biometric fingerprint system.
Second. Okay, have a motion made by Councilmember Johnson, seconded by Councilmember Yarborough. Councilmember Johnson, how do you vote, sir?
Aye.
Councilmember Strong, how do you vote, ma'am?
Aye.
Councilmember Yarborough, how do you vote, sir?
Aye.
Councilmember Escalante, how do you vote?
Aye.
Let the record show that the motion carried. Okay, discuss and consider renewal of named storm insurance coverage.
Mayor, council, I'll take this one from Trish. We had, our insurance for named storm is, due tomorrow. Unfortunately, with named storm quotes, they will not give named storm quotes within 30 days of renewal, or beyond 30 days of renewal. They like to check the weather forecast, they like to see the projected storms, profit loss, all that good stuff. So, Friday at, what time do we get it? I'm sorry, Thursday at 3 p.m. we get our quotes. We do have a insurance broker, which is Jeremy spoke with us before, with HCDT Insurance. Fiscal impact on this, our quote for named storm is $50,809, up from $42,704. And our deductible buy down is going from $46.53 to $95.02. So all in all, a 17% increase. History on this, the last 2 years have been record payouts for named storm down here. So we're falling in that category even though we don't have any claims. The deductible buy down is a little bit higher because our deductible was 1%, had gone up to 2%, and we're buying down back that 1%. The good thing about it is our deductible is a flat 25,000, which if we hit, excuse me, if we hit this type of coverage, you don't want to have any variable costs. You want a fixed cost, so we know it's 25,000. So if you look down at the bottom, AmRisk, Ventus, ICAT, Velocity, Catalytic, and SRU were the available quotes. If it says non-competitive, it was above. We have a declination of occupancy not eligible. We have another not eligible, probably due to age of some of our buildings. Declination of due to age of a roof and not competitive with renewal rate. And then SRU is our quoted buyback. Staff recommends renewing. This is just a straight renewal with the companies that we have now. I think the total cost is $60,312.90.
Okay, questions, discussion?
This covers just all city property and buildings?
Yes, we have a list that we give all major capital assets that could be damaged in named storms. It is considered down here, it's considered surplus insurance that your liability insurance would not cover. It's clear as mud.
Usually is.
But it is greatly needed here. We also had some interesting things that we looked at this go around with this renewal. We also found out that our water towers were not covered, and that our replacement values were significantly lower. So we went back and we adjusted those, and we covered the water towers because we don't need to pay for those out of pocket.
Make a motion to approve renewal of named storm insurance coverage.
Okay, a motion made by Councilmember Johnson, second by?
Second. Sorry.
Okay, we have a second by Councilmember Strong. Councilmember Johnson, how do you vote, sir?
Aye.
Councilmember Strong, how do you vote, ma'am?
Aye.
Councilmember Yarborough, how do you vote, sir?
Aye.
Councilmember Escalante, how do you vote, sir?
Aye.
I'll let the record reflect that the motion is carried. Okay, city manager's report.
Mayor, Council, it's just a exact copy of what I gave you Friday on the weekly report.
Okay.
I would say ditto, but I don't want to scare Trish.
Yeah. Any questions?
I have a question on the analysis that you did, Trish.
Yeah,
We're on that portion, right?
are you talking about for the,
So we have homestead,
the exemptions?
the exemptions.
We were going to bring that presentation next month, if that's all right. We wanted to give you what we've got and bring it back as a presentation, a discussion item. That way we can kind of take action. We have to do it before July. So we wanted to bring that back, not to be preemptive.
I thought we were talking about it
I'm happy to
tonight.
answer any questions.
Right.
I just did a quick preliminary analysis just to kind of give you guys an idea of what effect it would have on us. And to think about, we are gonna be discussing an increase in utility rates as well. So,
Yeah, this is actually something that we really don't have on the agenda, so technically we can't do any discussion
so
on it.
anyway, if you have any questions, just
I'll email. Thanks.
let me know.
Okay. Council member comments and reports. Mike Johnson.
Yeah, we got was it Thursday? Wednesday, CCPD meeting. So prepared to go to that and report back at next council meeting.
Okay.
Other than that, Mr. Brown's not here tonight, but I do appreciate his, I think, 2 appointments and 1 election to city
Right.
council. So Mark did a great job, and I'm sure we'll see him in the future doing something.
Okay. Melissa?
I don't think I have anything.
Matt?
So, second, what Mike was saying about Mark, we didn't always see eye to eye on council member things or council agenda items, but he definitely pushed a lot for what he believes and for what he felt the residents wanted. He was a very watchful eye on the money that was spent. So overall, I think his time on council was excellent. I think, speaking for myself, that's why it was a pretty easy decision when he was appointed most recently back for Miss Brown's spot. So,
Right.
and the Richwood Fire Department, previously we announced the crawfish boil fundraiser open house that has been postponed for a date to be determined.
Okay. All right.
Don't wait too long, we'll be out of season.
Yeah, we'll probably go
Switch to hot dogs.
something.
All right, Roy.
No frozen crawfish.
No, nothing to report.
Okay, moving on to mayor's report. I'd like to thank KRB for the hard work they did during the cleanup. Saw them out there. Hopefully this year I'll get my knees fixed and be able to get out there with them. But I'm very proud of all the work that they do, and you just can't hold down volunteers and beat the heart of a volunteer, because they get out there and they do good for a lot of people, and a lot of times don't get enough recognition for it. Myself, Cliff, and Eric were in different parts of the Richwood wastewater plant drill last week. It went off pretty well. I think that it was required by the state because they have certain amounts of chemicals that they hold on site. And there was a lot of good discussion during the after action meeting and after drill. And I believe that we've got some good folks working to make sure that if we do have an emergency out there, any type of major emergency, then we're going to have some good folks working to get it taken care of real quick. The chief was there as well. Forgot him. Also, let's see. I've been involved in like 3 state calls in the last week and a half for weather and heat related issues. I want to remind everybody, especially all of our workers, all of the citizens, make sure you hydrate, make sure you take plenty of breaks. This is going to be a hot summer, and it's already hot, and we're just experiencing the heavy part early. So please be careful. Please be ready to take a break. Keep yourself plenty of water on hand, ice, and know what to do if you get overheated or if your family gets overheated. Lastly, I'm going to hit again on the hurricane season coming up. We did have a drill. Unfortunately, I didn't make it that day, or a drill, but a meeting, emergency management meeting. And looks like the city's in good shape as far as being ready. I urge all the citizens to start looking at your supplies, making sure that you have plenty of food and water on hand if you plan to stay. or know where you're going to be going, and pre-plan your destinations if you're going to leave. One thing that we found out is the county's still taking letters for re-entry from cities and industry, but it's kind of like there was a rumor going around that they hadn't, but the emergency management department is wishing to get those letters, but the issue with that is they're probably not going to turn you away from the county. It's when you get to the cities, and pretty much here, if you're on the highway, then you can go anywhere through Richwood. It's kind of been the past. Just don't go into the city. Don't go into the residential areas without fear of being checked by a police officer, because they will check on you and make sure that you're not. But the main thoroughfares should be okay for bypassing the city or going through the city, but not into the neighborhoods. That's it. So let's move on to future agenda items.
Bring back the exemptions.
Exemptions.
I got one, possibly. It's a question mark. 2021 reviews. I don't think that we officially did one on you, Eric, have we? Or did the mayor do one that we don't know about? I know we had the discussion in the fall, but did we have a 2021 review?
Yeah, I think that was the 2021 review.
I don't know if it was a review or if it was just a renewal. It's a question mark. Does that stand as your review, Mr. Mayor?
I can't make that determination.
I'll look back on the minutes and find out. Do we need to?
Actually, we did. Each of you went around the table.
Yeah.
All right.
I thought the updated, not contract, but we had the updated contract and everything, was it?
Okay. I'm
Yeah.
satisfied then. I just wasn't sure. It was a question in my mind.
I'll look into it a little bit deeper and make sure that we hadn't missed it. But I was thinking that was the one that we did sit down and discuss with him and talk about the future ahead. So
Yeah.
on the contract renewal.
But it was last year. It wasn't at the end of year.
That's true.
Thing. So it's just a question in my mind is all.
Okay.
It's nothing malicious or anything. It's just, do we need to do it?
All right.
Document it.
Right. Anything else? The canvassing? Well, that's on the special meeting. Yeah. So,
I thought we were doing it today, that's why I was asking.
yeah.
So cover it with council.
All right. Well, I guess.
I did forget to give you kudos. I read on the police report, the unmarked patrol cars that are going around and services in Oakwood Shores, it's appreciated. The residents out there appreciate it. I saw even the mayor participated as well, so that's kudos and much appreciated.
That's no problem sitting there and watching and waiting for somebody to come by. I enjoy it. I don't mind doing that at all. Chief always takes care of me anyway. Make sure I don't get in trouble. All right. Well, we are adjourned. Thank you all for coming out. Thank you all for watching. Oh, and I did.